Angel. Well, Nate, we've known each other for a number of years, and I've always respected you as a person who is not afraid of a new idea. And I know you have cooked up or whatever so many neat things here in the Toledo area. But I'm just intrigued by your ability to not be afraid of a new idea. So how is it that you don't run away from new ideas and you nurture them and they come to fruition in some beautiful ways? So what is there about you that causes you not to run away from ideas?
That's a good question, and I'd probably have to psychoanalyze myself a lot more to really understand where that comes from. I do have a couple of ideas. I think that when I was a child, my experiences shaped me into possibly being that way. For instance, we moved around a lot. I was born in Southern Ohio. We lived outside of West Virginia. I lived outside of Chicago and then the Toledo area. I think I went to 8 or 9 different schools and 12 or 14 different houses within those different cities. And so I found myself always the new kid. So from kindergarten, first grade, third grade, sixth grade, all these pivotal moments, high school, I was moving to a new city, not knowing anybody. And I probably did have a lot of fear, socially with that. Like, am I going to fit in? How am I going to make friends? And then, of course, I'm losing my group of friends that I had prior to that. So I know that affected me in a lot of ways that were, undesirable. I did not want to move every time we moved. And, over the course of my life, though, that may have given me what you touched on, because I had to learn to go into new unknown situations with a lot of uncertainty and try to adapt and try to become, part of that crowd. So that's one of my suspicions, is that, that may have shaped me into giving me courage into going into situations and having to figure out how to navigate that, which I think is a very powerful skill set for anybody to have. If you can go into a situation where there's a lot of uncertainty, and life is really that. I think we block a lot of that out. But whether it's a new business idea or a new job or a new person that you're meeting or a new group of people, I think that we can learn how to adapt to those situations. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I do think that has something to do with it.
Well, I think it answers the question in a big way. You talk about adaptability, and we do know that species that adapt to environmental changes have a good chance of surviving. And those,
survival of the fittest?
Right. Well, I guess it's called natural selection, whatever. But those species that don't adapt, and it doesn't have to be a living thing like a creature or an animal, but it can be an institution, for instance. Institutions that don't adapt to changing markets, for instance, businesses that don't adapt to changing markets go out of business. That's just how it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I ask you, what is there about you not being afraid of a new idea? And it's you have nurtured this ability to adapt to new situations because, so to speak, you had to survive. You had to find a way as a young kid, moving around, on how to survive in a good way. And so you weren't afraid to adapt to new situations.
That's true. And even as a young adult, with your career and college and trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life and relationships, there is that element of survivability to it. I was disconnected from my family. They were very far away. I was by myself, struggling without really any support network. And being in those situations where, you might just need $5 for gas one day to get to work, and that could be catastrophic if you don't have that type of assistance at key times. And so there was a lot that I had to do that came from that survivalist mindset. I know the Marines have a mantra that's improvise, adapt, and overcome. And, it comes from the idea that you could be in enemy territory someday. You're, in a plane crash and you're in the wilderness, and you have to take what you have at hand to not only survive, but try to get back to civilization or to get a foothold back onto what your mission is. And that's something internally that I never would have chosen to go through numerous times. But those situations, I found myself in a lot of situations that society would view undesirable, through no fault of my own. And it was terrible to go through it. But it taught me these things, that were, and I'd like to give some examples. I don't know how personal or detailed to get, but those situations forced me to have to draw upon resources that I had deep inside that I never probably would have executed otherwise. And I think that conditions you, it shapes you in the way that you move and navigate the world and how you look at things. One of my favorite quotes, I think it was from the philosopher Seneca. It said that luck is where preparation meets opportunity. So the preparation part, what is that? Is that going to school? Is that learning? Yeah, but it's also your life experiences. What you go through prepares you. And a lot of times it feels pointless when it's happening. Like, how am I ever going to use this bad situation to do anything? What good's going to come out of that? And I've found that those situations, at a certain time and a certain circumstances will come into your life. And it's like all those things come together. And so the second piece of that quote, that luck is where preparation meets opportunity, being able to identify, having your eyes open in a certain respect to events that might previously have just gone unnoticed. But being open, I think, in a survival situation, you're hypersensitive. You're hyper aware of everything around you. Like, oh, this might just be a stick, but can I use that to start a fire or to, fend off a wild animal? Sounds like I was dropped off on a deserted island somewhere. I wasn't.
We know that you were.
What?
We know that you were.
Right.
You're an alien kind of thing.
Like Tom Hanks on Castaway.
Yeah, there you go.
Bust my own tooth out with an ice skate. So yeah, there's another example. But being able to see normal everyday situations or information that comes to you and seeing an opportunity and then being able to act on it, it is something that I've noticed that I do have. And it's common. A lot of people have it. But I feel like I don't really have to try to be that way. It's just kind of who I am now.